In case you haven't heard, Premier Doug Ford is not a fan of speed cameras. He calls the devices, quote, nothing but a tax grab, and told municipalities this week to get rid of them or else he will. This is a message welcomed by Kelly Henderson. We spoke with the Belleville councillor last month following her proposal to eliminate the cameras, except for those in certain school zones. Now she's offering drivers with paid speeding ticket fines a 10% discount at a restaurant she owns. Councillor Henderson joins me now. Good morning.
Good morning.
So I'm curious, how many drivers have taken advantage of the discount at your restaurant?
Well, to date, and I don't physically work in the restaurant, I have a partner that does, but to date we know of one regular customer that did come in and was pleased about it and did present his speeding ticket.
So what do you make of Premier Ford's comments about eliminating speed cameras altogether?
I was pleased by it, actually. From our municipality perspective, I was happy to hear it.
And Belleville has had speed cameras for almost a year now. What can you tell us about how effective they've been in slowing down traffic, reducing collisions, as well as injuries?
Well, I can't even tell you that we have any collision data, to be honest with you, at all about that. The most recent collision data they used to justify these cameras, from what I understand, was 2013. So whether they've had an impact from a standpoint of collision, I don't know. As for slowing down, yes, temporarily they have slowed down certain areas. However, we have found out that about 75% of the people I surveyed have stated that those drivers have now gone to other streets, so other residential neighborhoods. They're avoiding the speed cameras and going to residential neighborhoods to avoid them.
Wow, I can't. So that's quite the finding, that the fact that they're finding alternate ways to avoid the cameras altogether, which some may consider is counterintuitive, right, to what these cameras are supposed to be doing. And even just taking that into account, Councillor Henderson, more than 51,000 tickets have been issued so far in Belleville, generating over $4.6 million in fines. Now, that is a lot of revenue for the city. That sounds like what the Premier calls a, quote, cash grab. What do you say to that?
Well, I would say I'm probably on the same page as he is with respect to that, because honestly, it's probably closer to $5 million because we have not calculated the victim impact surcharge that's taxed on the top of that. And I don't have the number. I've been trying to get the number of what the amount of the victim surcharge portion of it, but that's over and above the initial $4,366,000. And that was for 11 months. That wasn't even a year. So that was an 11-month amount of money that was collected by the city of Belleville.
From your understanding, how is this money being used?
Well, now, just to mention, I haven't been on that council for the full term. I was recently appointed. I think I maybe mentioned that in our previous interview. But it's my understanding the money was to be used for other traffic calming measures and safety measures. However, the money is currently, I'm not sure that any has gone there. I think that about $1 million, almost $1.5 million was used towards homeless hub. So there was that money taken out of that speed enforcement revenue. And then there was also another recent amount taken out for doctor recruitment in our area.
It sounds like although there are some areas that you mentioned where the money is being used, it sounds like there's still some uncertainty. So have you brought up this uncertainty during council meetings?
Well, I've certainly brought it up. My concerns are well documented, sort of online, and anybody that's watched any of our council meetings since I've been there, I've rallied against these cameras just for the impact it's having on the residents financially, and ultimately what ends up happening is that trickles into the local economy. So if someone's getting a $120 speeding ticket, that's $120 they don't have putting back into the local economy or putting food on their table. So, I've been really vocal about that, and I don't believe that a person, making a mistake should be penalized like that.
Well, Premier Ford suggested that to slow down traffic at school, there should be big, huge signs, big flashing lights, one that maybe says crossing area. Do you agree with that type of alternate thinking when it comes to reducing speed in these areas?
Well, I can tell you, we do have some of that in school zones. We have a few school zones that have that, and it's very effective. We have the big flashing lights that indicate that the speed is reduced to 40 during school hours. I've been through other municipalities and they have the same thing, because some of these rural schools are actually on a 60 or an 80 kilometer speed limit. So what happens is when school is in session, they have the flashing lights going and they have the speeds reduced to 40. And from what I have noticed on Sydney Street, most notably that area of Our Lady Fatima School, it is effective. And other municipalities have also installed the speed. I think it's a solar operated. It tells you what speed you're going. And I noticed that's effective as well. If someone's looking and they see that flashing that maybe they're going 6 or 7 kilometers over the speed limit, people tend to slow down. So there are lots of great other methods we could be using. And let's not forget, traffic really is a policing matter. And maybe if we're having an issue with not enough policing, maybe we need to hire police to actually participate in additional traffic measures.
Councillor Henderson, the last time we spoke with you, you were working with city staff to develop a clear motion to restrict speed cameras to school zones only. What's the latest update with that?
The motion failed, and it failed, I would say, only 3, including myself, were in favor of doing that. Everybody else voted against it.
And what's your plan of action moving forward?
So, I'm just going to keep my advocacy work going, and, continue to advocate, take a hard line. I'll be holding, Doug Ford's feet to the fire on this one, and I'll be using our MPP to do it. So, I would like weekly updates. Where are we at with the elimination of speed cameras? I mean, right now, that's the only avenue I have, would be to continue the pressure campaign and use our MPP to do so.
Councillor Henderson, we'll leave it there, but thank you so much for joining us.
You're very welcome. Have a great day.
That was Belleville Councillor Kelly Henderson. Meanwhile, west of Belleville, in the town of Midland, they are taking a different approach. 2 new speed cameras were installed just last week. Amid this province-wide debate, Mayor Bill Gordon is behind the implementation, and he joins us yet again here on Ontario Morning. Welcome back, Mayor Gordon.
Thanks, Nav. Great to be back.
I feel like this is going to become like a daily segment now. Hey, but we always appreciate the time. What do you make of the recent controversy over speed cameras, and particularly the Premier's comments?
Well, the Premier is, and I support the Premier generally in most of his ventures. I think this is one of those off teleprompter moments where he just kind of speaks from the heart and says what's on his mind and what's on the mind of many people who feel that if properly or improperly implemented, these speed cameras can feel like just an unnecessary tax. And while I think there are clearly municipalities that maybe have done that and raised the ire of the Premier and other drivers, I think when they're properly implemented, they become a very valid tool, no different than getting a fine from a police officer pulling you over. Just nowhere near the breadth of investigation, because it's not the driver that's held accountable, it's the vehicle owner, just because of the limitations of technology.
Why does Midland need speed cameras?
Well, ourselves, like many communities, speeding is probably the number one complaint that our municipal council gets. We don't have a municipal police service anymore, unlike Belleville that has their own. We contracted the OPP, and many people jokingly say that OPP stands for Ontario Perimeter Police rather than Provincial Police, simply because it seems that most of the radar and traffic enforcement happens on the outskirts of our community, so along the 80-kilometer county road and highway, MTO highway, because those are good fishing holes where you get the most traffic, and people in those 60 and 80 zones are often doing much more than that. So even when we did have our own police, those were popular spots to do radar enforcement. But what's missing now is radar enforcement in our community, especially our community safety zones and school zones. So we were left with really only 2 possibilities. One, do nothing, which is what we had been doing, and just asking for more policing, but with a moratorium on hiring any more OPP in our contract, our inability to do so is quite frustrating. The alternative was use this tool that the province, I will remind everybody, baked into the Highway Traffic Act many, many years ago. So this isn't a construct that communities are, making up on their own. We're just following the law that exists in the Highway Traffic Act that allows for these cameras to be put in and used in communities to slow traffic down 24/7.
It's only been a week since the cameras were installed, but do you know how many tickets have been issued so far and if drivers are actually slowing down in these areas?
So, yeah, I had to do a little digging because it is so new. We don't have the normal reporting cycle yet from our partners in Newmarket. But it looks like in the first week of Go Live since September 2nd, about 400 tickets have been issued on one camera. The second camera is in an area that's currently closed because we're doing construction on that road, but it is a major road that we expect a lot of traffic to resume on once the road opens up later this fall. But for that one area, which is a community safety zone and a school zone that's been 40 kilometers an hour previously when lights were flashing, but in order to put this program into place, we had to stop that and make it permanently 40. So we no longer have areas in the community that don't have permanent speed reductions. So it's 40 in that section permanently, and then it goes back to 50. And so in that first week, about 400 tickets. I can't tell you how many people have exercised their option to appeal that. We don't know how many have paid yet, but we do have the option for people to pay at our front counter, as well as to make the appeal happen in person. Of course, they can do it online as well.
And just speaking about appeals quickly, Mayor Gordon, back in June, the city of Vaughan, just north of Toronto, temporarily suspended fines from their brand new speed cameras after a spike in calls from residents looking to appeal the penalties and several acts of vandalism. We also just heard, and you heard just now from Councillor Henderson out in Belleville, that drivers are taking residential roads to avoid the cameras, and that has resulted in speeding and increased traffic. Are you worried at all that could happen in Midland?
Well, I think we're already seeing it. We're experiencing some of that sort of traffic diversion because Yonge Street, which is a main arterial road in our community, is closed, partially closed because we've been ripping up the infrastructure and redoing the street. But we see a lot more traffic on Hugo, which is a parallel road, just because the road's being closed. So we're expecting that kind of diversion. However, where the current camera is also one of our truck routes in our community, and it happens to go right by an elementary school. So if people are going to avoid that and start going through, sleepy little residential streets, I think they're going to find that over time we're adding traffic calming to these streets. They could be in the form of speed humps, which are plow-friendly for the winter, speed bumps, which generally aren't, or bollards, which are in for 3 seasons. They're like flexible plastic installations you screw into the road and then take out in the wintertime. And those will also have a traffic calming effect. And the beautiful part of this is all of these things that we want to put into our community to slow people down are going to be paid for, or the plan is to be paid for by offenders rather than the taxpayer at large.
And just so I'm clear, the money that you will be getting from these speed cameras, what would that be used for?
So the pledge is that it goes into a traffic calming reserve. And any revenues aside from cost recovery, because this program is not, it's not free. So once we get through cost recovery, any profit, if you'll call it that goes into the reserves will be funneled into community safety initiatives and further traffic calming. Some of the traffic calming techniques like bump outs and infrastructure changes to the way roads are designed are very expensive, like hundreds of thousands of dollars, and involve, unless you're planning on redoing the road in the first place, involve construction. So the speed bumps, these bollards, the speed cushions or speed humps, those are all add-ons to roads that are quite expensive to do. And the plan is to use the fines and the revenues generated from that to funnel directly into those initiatives. So you're not going to see new flowers down at the dock or us hiring new staff or putting this money into general revenues. The pledge is it's all going to go back into community safety initiatives, whatever whatever that money ends up being. The goal, of course, is this is not supposed to make money. I'd like it to break even because I don't like losing money because it's tax money, but it should be on a declining revenue scale where people start to realize, hey, I need to slow down. I don't want to get another one of these offense notices in the mail. And they're going to drive more carefully in our school zones, in our community safety zones, which I'll let people know we only have 10. We're not one of those communities that's made prolific changes and made community safety zones everywhere. And I can see where the ire of the Premier would come from communities that kind of abuse that. We have 2 community safety speed cameras running in Midland right now, 24 hours, 7 days a week. They're both in community safety zones that are also school zones, which are 40 kilometers an hour. School zones are 40 kilometers an hour, 24/7, to reflect the use of the property by kids and families, even during evenings and weekends. So it's the people that are upset that these are running overnights and weekends. There's no other place where a speed limit varies by time of day or day of week. Speed limits are the speed limit everywhere. And with the proper signage and warning, which, we have to put 3 months notice that these things are coming, there's no good reason why people would miss this and not know, especially being in the news all the time. I'll remind you, when a police officer makes a decision every day to set up camp and do radar, they don't put a sandwich board out 200 meters away saying, hey, I'm hiding up here to catch you speeding, nor do they have to tell people 3 months in advance where they're going to set up their speed traps. Municipalities do. The HTA requires us to give 3 months notice that a speed camera is coming, and then we have to put a separate sign up that's prescribed by the province that says the speed camera is in use. So, there are so many opportunities afforded to police to catch people speeding that we don't have as a municipality. We're really kind of hobbled, and yet people are still really quite concerned the fact that we have this tool that is in the Highway Traffic Act, and some people are very concerned that we're using it.
Mayor Gordon, I quickly, just because we are running out of time.
Sorry.
You mentioned the Highway Traffic Act, and you mentioned how the speed cameras were a part of that. But are you concerned at all that the province may take some action on this matter?
Well, it's their act to change. If they decide that they want to remove this tool, then fair enough. The tool will be removed. That doesn't change my desire to make our community as safe as possible. So I'll carry on with our traffic safety and traffic calming initiatives. And unfortunately, the funds will need to come from the general taxation, and instead of from the offenders. And that's just the alternative. We're not going to pout about it and make the community less safe. It's just going to cost everybody more. Instead of using this tool to slow people down and collect revenue from the offenders to offset that.
Mayor Gordon, we'll leave it there, but thank you once again for joining us here on Ontario Morning.
Always a pleasure. Cheers.
That's